What is going on, y'all? Welcome to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where we train up warriors, not weaklings. Today is Thursday, August 14th, the year of our Lord 2025. And this is a show where Christian men in general, come to get equipped to stand firm, speak truth, and fight back against a culture that is trying to steal your faith, your family, and your freedom. Because the battle that we're in is not just political, but it's spiritual. And the fight never, ever takes a day off. So we are done pulling punches. The gloves are off and we are getting after it. So be sure to follow us at Mission Ready Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Truth Social. And be sure to subscribe to our Rumble and YouTube channels. And if you want to wear the fight, head over to missionreadymen.com and click on Shop 7 Armors and grab some gear over there. All right, business is done, so it's go time. And this is something that I have been talking about since it kicked off, really, and that's the the Texas gerrymandering fight. And apparently, the Democrats have given up. They fled the state. They try not to frame it as fleeing, but they fled the state, and they are now telling everyone that they're going to come back. And they're trying to they're trying to frame it as some kind of courage, but what it really is they just look like kids who ran away from home and then realized that they didn't have any money, and they don't have any money. That's why Beto is getting Robert Francis, excuse me, is getting sued for trying to raise money for these fools. But I digress. Just to recap real quick, they I'm sure you all know this, but they are trying to redraw the maps to gain 5 Republican seats. And the Democrats, of course, are claiming that it's racist and rigging the elections and voter tampering and who knows what else. Robert Francis O'Rourke in a tweet said that we will have the backs of these heroic lawmakers for as long as it takes. Well, as long as it takes apparently is about 2 weeks and a couple of free hotel brunch buffets. That's about it. They're supposed to be coming back. They announced that they're going to be coming back on Friday, and that's going to be after the special session is over. But Greg Abbott has already said that he is going to he's going to call another one immediately, and they're not going to run away again. The map that they tried to block is going to get signed into law. So all of this was for nothing. And I don't miss a whole lot about, well, that's not true. There are some things I do miss about Texas. I love Arkansas, don't get me wrong. The Attorney General in Texas, Ken Paxton, is a boss. He is an absolute boss. I was kind of hoping he was going to get tapped to be the U.S. Attorney General, but that didn't happen. But Ken Paxton, he put the hammer down, and he threatened them with civil, or he issued civil arrest warrants, contempt orders, and well, Greg Abbott instituted the fines. But Ken Paxton is in charge of enforcing all of that. And I talked about Robert Francis O'Rourke, and he has his ridiculous pack, powered by people or some such nonsense. And when Paxton sued him and won, Robert Francis, he put out this tweet, and let's take a look at it, because Paxton's response was, like I said, he's a boss, and Paxton's response to to old Robert Francis was absolutely hilarious. So Robert Francis said they want to make examples of those who fight so that others won't. And I guess running away is now considered fighting or something. Paxton's trying to shut down Powered by People, one of the largest voter registration organizations in the country, because our volunteers fight for voting rights and free elections, blah, blah, blah. But Paxton's response, check this out. Cry more, lib. You lost in court because you're breaking the law and deceiving Texans. We will absolutely make an example out of lawbreakers. Cry more, lib. I love it. I absolutely love it. And of course, he got heat for that, saying that it's beneath him and all this stuff. And Republicans for too long have been, I don't want to say playing by the rules, but they've tried to be above the fray, so to speak. And that has not worked out well historically, because the Democrats don't play that game. They play to win, and they are not above any of this. And so for him to say cry more, lib, which is what a lot of us say to a lot of these leftists all the time, I think it's great. I think it's awesome. And it's not just that, but it's all of the things attendant to it that he has done. Because after that exchange, O'Rourke is suspected of continuing to fundraise for these people in defiance of the court ordering him not to. And so he's been sued again and been asked to be the judge. Ken Paxton asked the judge to hold him in contempt for defying that court order. We'll see what happens with that. I haven't heard one way or another yet, but like I said, we'll see. But the Democrats who left, like the cowards that they are trying to frame it as they're bringing the fight back to the floor. Well, the fight never should have left the floor. If it was something you really believed in, you should have stayed and fought for it. You should have made the case why the Republicans were wrong. But they didn't. And now they're coming back with their tail tucked between their legs, knowing that they're about to lose. And of course, on the flip side, the Republicans are saying they ran and then they caved, which is exactly what happened. And so the map is going to pass, and their only hope at this point, which is not unfounded, is to hope that some activist judges overturn it, rewrite it, redraw the maps, whatever. And that's not entirely outside of the realm of possibility with these leftist activist judges. So we'll see. But as I said, the map is going to pass, and they're going to go to the courts. And you know what? I want us to listen to this, because Robert Francis is, I really have no use for that guy. But take a look at this right here, because this guy, the left has I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second, but the left has this problem with connecting with men. And despite the fact that he hasn't won an election in years now, I think he's lost the last 3 elections that he's run in. They're still trying to trot him out as some sort of alpha male, and he is anything but. So listen to this.
We want California and New Jersey and Illinois and Maryland and every other state where the Democrats hold the governor's mansion, the assembly, and the state senate to redraw their congressional districts now, not wait for Texas to move first, to maximize Democratic Party advantage. Listen, you may say to yourself, well, those aren't the rules. There are no refs in this game. Fuck the rules. We are going to win whatever it takes. We're going to take this to them in every way that we can.
F the rules. And I think that was the impetus for Paxton saying that he was continuing to punish. This was a fundraising rally for his organization, Powered by People, and he just basically said, "F the rules." So, what's anyone with half a brain to think when he says that? I don't care what the courts say. I'm going to continue to raise money for these people, because he also said in another tweet, as I talked about earlier, they have to have the backs of these people for as long as it takes. Maybe he didn't raise that much money, and that's why they had to come back. Who knows? But the thing is, these walkouts, they made headlines. But they didn't make any laws. They made headlines. They made some waves. But that didn't do anything. It had no effect. So, welcome back to Austin. Now get back to work. All right, another topic I wanted to get into, because it's something else that we've talked about before. I think it just in the last show we talked about it, but I want to get into it again because there's a few updates. But Washington DC is under new management, and by that I mean under federal management. Trump has declared a public safety emergency, rightfully so, and has taken temporary control of the MPD, and has put National Guard and federal law enforcement agents on the ground. And wouldn't you know it, it's been 48 hours, and they're already seeing an improvement in crime in the city. But it's a political, not just a rhetorical war zone, but a political war zone at this point, because we have accusations of racism and the mayor calling it authoritarian because she can't speak English. And the police chief actually, you know what, we'll get into that, because that's just, I don't even know how to get into that, but we'll get to that in a minute. But just to recap, Trump invoked Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act, which gives him 30 days to take control of the Metropolitan Police Department. And he deployed 800 National Guard troops to the streets of DC, which he has every right to do, and deployed agents from the DEA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, and he deployed them targeting these high crime areas, looking for repeat offenders and outstanding warrants. And wouldn't you know, all you have to do is just apply yourself. 100 arrests as of last time I checked, and that could be there could be more than that, but last time I checked, 100 arrests, 17 guns seized, and 1 murder suspect caught. It reminds me of what President Trump said about the border. You don't need new laws. You don't need new legislation. You just need a new president. You need someone willing and able to enforce the law that's already on the books. That's it. That's it. It's so obvious that it's how you have a police department, and I know that they're shorthanded and stuff like that, but they're not that shorthanded. They're not that shorthanded that they couldn't have made some of these 100 arrests. They couldn't have seized some of these 17 guns. I just refuse to believe that. But the takeover of DC, the federalization of DC, has been called racist, has been called authoritarian, or authoritarian if you're Muriel Bowser. In fact, let's take a look at that, because this is ridiculous.
If you know you're in a community where moms need support, do that. If you're in a community where the violence interrupters can have a rest place, then do that. If you have a wide network where you can talk about the democracy issues facing the district, the intrusion on our autonomy, the impact on other cities, then do that. But what you shouldn't do is wait for me to tell you what to do. This is a time where community needs to jump in, and we all need to do what we can in our space, in our lane, to protect our city, and to protect our autonomy, to protect our home rule, and get to the other side of this guy. And make sure we elect the Democratic House so that we have a backstop to this authoritarian push.
Authoritarian push. Here's the thing. If she and her police chief, which we're going to get to here in a second, if she were actually keeping order, if they were actually doing something to stop the crime, and I know that they're saying that crime is down. We went over that. Crime is down, yes, down from a mountain, but it's still way above what should be, what is acceptable. And of course, the goal is to have no crime. That's not going to happen. But how about if we get down to at least where it was, where people actually felt like they could walk the streets during the day without having to worry about getting jumped, or without having to worry about getting their car stolen, or carjacked, or whatever the case may be. That's not the case right now. But if they were actually doing something to stop that crime, if they weren't letting having a revolving door of criminals when they just get arrested, and before the cops can even finish writing the report, they're released back out onto the street, only to commit more crime. If you were doing something about that, there wouldn't be a need to have the National Guard and other federal law enforcement agencies with their boots on the ground. But that brings us to Police Chief Pamela Smith. And when I heard about it before I saw it, and I almost didn't believe it. Part of me did, just because I know that with DEI, anything is possible. But I was like, you don't rise to that rank and not know this. But of course, apparently, somebody did. And just, it's really not funny, actually. It's not funny, but I mean, what else are you going to do? But let's watch this and listen to this, and then we'll talk about it.
The chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor, speaking to you, or how does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the.
All right. So at the beginning of that, you caught it. What's the chain of command? What does that mean? Are you kidding me? Leaving aside rising through the ranks of a police department, and it turns out, I found out after looking into this a little more, that she was like the DEI officer before she became the police chief. So that should tell you all you need to know, because she's clearly a DEI hire. But how do you get to, like I said, leaving aside the police aspect of it, how do you get to that point in your life where you don't understand what the chain of command is? You've had jobs before. You've watched movies. Through osmosis, you should at least have a basic understanding of what chain of command is. And she actually said to a reporter, "What does that mean?" I'm still mystified. I saw this a couple of days ago, and I am still mystified. I don't understand it. If anyone has any thoughts, please let me know. Because I'm at a loss. I'm at a total loss. When your police chief asks what the chain of command means, that should be a clue. That is a clue as to how chaotic the leadership structure in DC actually is. When you have a mayor who can't speak basic English and a police chief who doesn't know what the chain of command is, your city is in trouble. The crime issue in DC is completely real. It's not made up. It's not an authoritarian push. It's not an excuse for President Trump to take over. it's real and something has to be done about it. And because President Trump has the authority in DC to do it, he's going to do something about it. And of course, you have the people claiming that it's overreach, it's authoritarian security theater. The AP said that the language mirrors racist urban crime narratives. Politico says that Black leaders feel under siege. The Congressional Black Caucus said it's blatantly racist and a despicable power grab. And it just goes on and on. Al Sharpton said that it's racist, and he's President Trump in his statements is only targeting cities run by Black mayors. The problem is that the cities run by Black mayors like Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Oakland are all crime-infested hellholes where nobody feels safe. It's not racist to say that. It's truth. And as I say, we stand on the truth. So if enforcing the law in these majority Black cities is racist, well, then the criminals are the only ones who are allowed to be colorblind, I guess. But the fact is that young Black males commit most of these crimes in these urban areas. It's a fact. And so if that's where the crime is being committed, you're not going to send the National Guard to Omaha, Nebraska. Seriously, what do these people think? The gaslighting here is just off the charts. But here's the thing. The clock is ticking on this because President Trump has a 30-day window. And if he feels the need to carry out this federalization beyond those 30 days, then Congress has to approve it. Congress has to approve any extension beyond the 30 days. Now, President Trump has hinted that national emergency powers could bypass that. I don't know if that would fly. Honestly, I don't have a problem with it, but I just don't know if it would fly. But if it does, then it could set the precedent for interventions like this in Chicago and Baltimore, New York and Oakland, and wherever else the crime is out of control, which basically is just pretty much 90% of the cities run by Democrat leftist mayors, whether they're Black or white, honestly. And so the test is going to be, is DC going to be safer after this? Is DC, is this going to make a dent? If crime drops, then the left loses the narrative on this. And so are they going to bury the results? Are they going to manufacture some crisis, something to get it off the front page? So if it goes down, like I said, they lose a narrative. If it doesn't, then Trump gets all the blame. But either way, this is going to be a proving ground for whether or not the feds can restore order in these places, or if some of America's largest cities are now too far gone for even federal intervention to work. It's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And I honestly think that it's going to work. But I'm not ruling out the possibility that the left comes up with some crisis, some emergency to get another win for President Trump off the front page. It's not like we haven't seen it before. So we'll see. All right, let's get a word from our sponsor, and sponsor for today's show is Carry Girl Gear, my beautiful wife's company. So, fellas, if you are looking for a great gift for your wife or your girlfriend or your daughter, check out carrygirl.com. They've got some of the best looking, highest quality shirts out there, bold designs, great fabric, and stuff that she will actually want to wear. And it's not just shirts. There's drinkware, there's hats, and a whole host of accessories that she's absolutely going to love. And if you're anything like me and gift buying is not your strong suit, go ahead and grab yourself a gift card and let her pick it out herself. It's quick, it's easy. She'll get exactly what she wants, and you look like a hero. So head over to carrygirl.com today, show some love, and make it count. Visit carrygirl.com today. All right, y'all. I am Big E, and you are watching or listening to the Mission Ready Men briefing on the SHR Media Network, where you can catch Sackhead Sean with the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Wednesday at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. The Reverb Common Sense with Jersey Joe every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific. And BZ with the Berserk Bobcat Saloon every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, which means he is going to be on tonight. And I may or may not make an appearance. We'll see how things go. But there's a pretty good chance that I will be there as well. So please like and subscribe and share all of these great shows. Share the channel. Pray for us that we have a huge breakthrough, and you can be a part of that by sharing the channel with everyone that you know, because we want to reach as many people as we possibly can. All right, now let's get back to our regularly scheduled programming. BZ, thanks for being here. BZ bought a t-shirt. You can too, absolutely. I want to get into something that I've been seeing a lot, and I've been seeing some people losing their minds over this possibility, and that is the chance that the chance that the Supreme Court could revisit and overturn Obergefell. And Obergefell is basically the Supreme Court ruling that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. Obergefell v. Hodges is the leftist Supreme Court's rainbow-wrapped love letter, with judicial activism to the LGBT mafia. And a lot of constitutional scholars, a lot of legal scholars say that it's blatantly unconstitutional and just completely bad judicial activism, bad law from the bench. And Nelson Lund, one of those scholars, said it's not just bad law, but it's a warning to so-called constitutional conservatives who are buying into this living constitution stuff that they claim to reject. And this isn't about whether or not you like same-sex marriage. And let me just stop right there and make my position clear in case you are not aware that I am completely against it. I believe that the Bible says that marriage is between one man and one woman, and that homosexuality is an abomination to Almighty God. It's sexual perversion, and I don't believe that it should be codified into law of this great country. And so, just so that we're clear, because we're not gonna, this is gonna be more of a legal discussion than a theological one right now. But just so that we're clear from the outset, that is my position on this. It has nothing to do with whether or not it's constitutional or should or shouldn't be, or whether or not we should stay out of it because it's somebody's personal life or whatever they do behind closed. That's all well and good, but my position is from a biblical perspective, and I believe that it is wrong and should not be codified into our law. So now that we have that established, let's just get into what Obergefell is. This was a Supreme Court ruling in 2015. It was a 5-4 ruling legalizing same-sex marriage. And Anthony Kennedy, flaming leftist, I believe he was even appointed by a Republican, if I remember correctly. But he turned out to be one of the many disappointments of Republican Supreme Court appointees. And he's just, he was a complete disappointment. But writing for the majority, Anthony Kennedy said that marriage is dignity, autonomy, devotion, and sacrifice. Now, as BZ likes to say, I speak leftist, allow me to translate. Let's just make it up as we go. Whatever we think, whatever direction the wind is blowing, we'll just do that. Ridiculous. But of course, and this ruling came down before Scalia passed away. So the dissenters were Scalia, Thomas Alito, obviously, and surprisingly, Roberts. I think this might have been one of his first cases. They dissented, warning about judicial overreach. But of course, because there were 5 leftists on the court, they were overruled. And Nelson Lund's argument is that Obergefell is pure judicial legislation dressed up as constitutional law. And the majority, the people who ruled on this in favor, they used flowery language like dignity and autonomy, neither of which appears in the 14th Amendment, which is what they claimed to base this ruling on. And so Nelson Lund's point was that if judges can invent rights which is what they did in Roe v. Wade. If judges can invent rights from feel-good words, then constitutional law basically means whatever mood they're in, whatever the mood strikes. That's what constitutional law ends up being in this scenario. And he warns, and I have a link to his write-up on this in the show notes, so you can read it for yourself. Obviously, I'm summarizing it right now. But he warns that conservatives have been infected with the same mind virus that the left has been, wherein they're fine with judicial activism as long as it gives them the result that they want. Kind of like going to church on Sunday and then going around drinking, clubbing, and whoring all week long. Preaching originalism on Sunday and then practicing this living Constitution nonsense the rest of the week. It's the same thing. And it's a double standard that erodes credibility and basically hands the left a playbook for the next battle, for the next cultural fight that comes down the pike. Not that they need any help from us to do that. They have proven themselves to be quite adept at framing these cultural battles. But this took place in 2015. I think some things have changed since then. I think conservatives have come around to understand how to fight this cultural battle. And so do I, BZ. BZ says, I so miss Antonin Scalia. So do I. But Obergefell is not just bad judicial activism. Obergefell is a symbol of the decay of conservative constitutional thought and Judeo-Christian values. It's symbolic of a lot of things, those two things in particular. And if there's a chance that it can be overturned, that they'll take it up and overturn it, I am praying for that. I am absolutely praying for that. And you're right, BZ, it is a spiritual battle. That's something that I say all the time. It is a spiritual battle. But right now I want to play a little game. I want to play a little poetry versus the page. And the page is the actual Constitution, the poetry being Justice Kennedy's majority opinion in Obergefell v. Hodges. And I'm simply going to read a passage from Kennedy's opinion, and then the relevant part of the 14th Amendment. And I want you to see if you can figure out whether or not they have anything at all to do with each other. And I think you can tell from my tone where this is going. But first one, no union is more profound than marriage, for it embodies the highest ideals of love, fidelity, devotion, sacrifice, and family. And the 14th Amendment says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Those two things have nothing to do with each other. Because when the framers wrote privileges or immunities, they were clearly talking about two guys saying I do or something. Anyway, let's this one here is another one. Their hope is not to be condemned to live in loneliness, excluded from one of civilization's oldest institutions. And the 14th Amendment says, Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Because I guess due process includes your right to sleep with whoever you want to or something. It's just so devoid of any legal scholarship that it just and I say that as someone who is not a lawyer, obviously, but I've read a lot of these opinions over the years. And when you read an opinion written by Antonin Scalia or Justice Thomas or Alito, and then you read an opinion written by Ketanji Brown Jackson or Sonia Sotomayor, or in this case, Anthony Kennedy, the difference could not be more stark. It's mind-boggling. BZ says, because of you, as indicated numerous times on your show, with leftists, it isn't about precedent or law. It's a motive, all about emotions. Absolutely. Absolutely. And everything about what Kennedy wrote in this opinion is pure emotion. Pure emotion. But let's take one more. It would misunderstand these men and women to say they disrespect the idea of marriage. Their plea is that they do respect it so deeply they seek to find its fulfillment for themselves. The 14th Amendment says, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Yes, everybody deserves equal protection. But in Kennedy's opinion, he basically gave a green light for the court to moonlight as a wedding planner. Right? The framers who wrote the Constitution are face palming and rolling over in their graves right now, listening to this. And the chance that this could get overturned, and from what I've read, it seems like that they could take this up in the next session, and we could have a decision on it by June of next year. I pray that happens. I really do. And for all of the people out there who are all up in arms about possibly getting overturned, I can't even say sorry about your bad luck. Because I just don't. I think that overturning it is the absolute right thing to do. But they went from no state shall to love is love. I mean, did Kennedy go to law school or a creative writing workshop? I'm confused. And because these rulings set such a precedent and are there to interpret the Constitution, apparently all you need right now is a thesaurus and a sense of melodrama. And in the case of Ketanji Brown Jackson, you don't even need a thesaurus. You just need stream of consciousness thought or something, because her opinions are just gibberish, complete gibberish. But anyway, this matters. This matters beyond the. This matters beyond this particular case, because the way that they arrived at this opinion is a way for them to justify any any new right, quote unquote, that public opinion thinks should go into effect. They could erode religious conscience protections, parental rights and education, which they're trying to do absolutely right now, and the First and Second Amendments could get reinterpreted with this type of legal reasoning, and I use that term very loosely in this case. And if we don't push back on this madness, we're just handing the keys of constitutional interpretation over to these leftists who have nothing but contempt for the Constitution and think it should be rewritten anyway. So just so that we're clear, and I reiterate, my objection to Obergefell is not just from a legal perspective; it's from a biblical perspective. And we've gone over that, so I'm not gonna go back into it again. But just to reiterate Lund's point from the legal perspective, Obergefell is not just a bad decision, but it's symbolic of the decay of Judeo-Christian values and conservative constitutional thought. And we can't allow that to happen, because conservatives have kind of abandoned the Constitution. Not all conservatives, but too many, which is why we're in the position that we're in right now anyway. All right. I wanted to, I got a few other things I wanted to get to. And you know what? Actually, let's take a look at what BZ says. Laws for those who wish to marry animals, marry a tree, marry a chromed bumper. Yeah, well, yeah. I remember back when I really got into following politics, and this was during the Bush-Kerry race back in 99, 2000. And I was in Massachusetts at the time, and the whole gay marriage thing was coming up. And there was a radio host who has since passed away, but there was a radio host I listened to all the time named Jay Severin. And he said, when I'll never forget it, I was driving to work or driving home from work. And he said that if we allow this, who's to say that a year or 2 or 10 down the line, someone's not going to say, well, I want to marry my penguin. I want to marry my pet penguin, or I want to marry my dog. And he got excoriated for that in the press up there. And yet, here we are. Here we are, where not only are people trying to marry these animals and inanimate objects, but people are dressing up as these things and identifying as these things. And the slope wasn't just slippery, but they greased it up. Sotomayor, self-described as a wise Latina, not just an American, a jurist, a scholar of law. She sees only identity. Well, yeah, that's what most of these do. They see everything through the lens of identity politics, and it's the only thing that we should be identifying as Americans. But of course, that can never happen with these people. All right. I had a couple other things I want to get to, but I really want to get to this because this, I think, is very, very important. And the government, the government can't do anything right. The government cannot do anything right. And we're seeing the effects of this in St. Louis, where a government-run grocery store has just closed its doors because nothing says fresh produce like a government bureaucrat managing your apples. It's and so we have and it's not just St. Louis. There have been a number of government-run grocery stores that have been run into the ground, and we have that happening. But then we have Zohran Mamdani in New York, who wants $65 million to put a city-run grocery store in each borough. If it works out like that in Kansas City, what are they going to do differently in New York? How are they going to make it work in New York? Well, of course, the answer is obviously they can't. They can't. It's never ever worked, and these people aren't smart enough to make it work. I mean, and just economically, it can't work. It cannot work. The margins in grocery stores are just too slim for them to make any kind of profit when you have a bureaucracy running the show. It just can't happen. But Mamdani in New York, he wants to put a city-run grocery store in each borough to fight food deserts and price gouging. That's a nice trigger word, but it means absolutely nothing in this case. And of course, the taxpayers need to pay for it. Now, Kansas City's Sunfresh Market opened in 2018. Millions of taxpayer dollars on the line. 14,000 weekly shoppers dropped to 4,000, and they lost $885,000 in 1 year. Add to that the constant crime, empty shelves, plummeting morale. And now in August of 2025, despite getting a $750,000 bailout, they have closed their doors. A local official admitted on camera, I don't have the soundbite in front of me, but admitted that the city has no plan to fill the gap. No plan. This happened in Baldwin, Florida, apparently. Happened in Illinois. Taxpayer money in, temporary, a temporary euphoric sense of accomplishment, followed by the inevitable crash. And it's going to happen even faster in New York because things cost more, there's more crime, and even more bureaucracy, which is going to make the failure happen that much faster. And once these stores start hemorrhaging money, the politicians are going to yammer about emergency funds rather than admit that it was a failure from the word go. And then you have all the potential for corruption and favoritism in vendor selection and contracts and staffing and all of that is just going to be rife with corruption. And especially when you have a socialist, a communist running the show. And if you think the DMV is bad, Department of Motor Vehicles, wait till the Department of Lettuce is going to have nothing on that. I mean, it's just a recipe for disaster. And I suppose there are some things that could work to alleviate the food desert issue and whatnot. I heard somebody mention a military commissary model, obviously on a much smaller scale, or like a Costco or Sam's Club model on a smaller scale. I don't see that happening. I don't see that working really well. It may work a little better than what they're proposing, but I don't see that working. Obviously, encouraging small business grocers to get involved and serve these neighborhoods. How about fixing the crime problem? That could work. How about investing in more police? Which, of course, Mamdani is a defund the police guy, so that's not going to happen under his rule. But investment in security and policing and stuff like that, that would attract more private business to these areas, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Every city-run grocery store ends up going past its expiration date. Every city-run grocery store has one and cannot survive. It can't. So if you don't want to buy spoiled produce for $10 a pound, or and then pay twice as much through taxes, maybe don't elect the guy who thinks socialism belongs in the produce aisle. Maybe. Because it's a recipe for disaster. It is an absolute recipe for disaster. And maybe New York deserves it. Maybe I've seen commentary where people say, where people say maybe they need this. They need to see the abject failure before they can turn it around. And there's probably some truth to that. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to see that happen to the people of New York. But if the people with sense don't turn out to vote, that's what's going to happen. And then it's going to take a whole lot of time, energy, and effort to dig out of the hole that he's going to put them in. And maybe that's what it's going to take. I don't want to see that happen, but maybe it is. BZ says, sadly, I believe Zohran Mamdani will be elected New York City mayor in November. That is a bad thing and a great thing simultaneously. There must be consequences. Yes, and there will be. Elections have consequences. And the consequences of electing a Muslim communist mayor are going to be disastrous. There's no other way to put it. It is going to be disastrous. Anyway, folks, that's all I got for you this time. I had a couple of things I wanted to get to, but I'll try to get to them next time. And I will try to keep striving to make each episode better than the last one. If any of what I said hit home for you, please take a second to like and subscribe and share it with everyone that you know. We are, I believe, two away from 600 subscribers on YouTube. Please share these episodes with everyone that you know, because we're not just here to yammer into a microphone, but we want to spread the word. We want to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ and carry the banner of faith, freedom, and hope for the future generations. And if you want some cool gear, head over to missionreadymen.com, hit Shop 7 Armors, and check out all of the great designs that we have there. about bold faith, true grit, and unapologetic patriotism. And as always, when seconds count, the police are only minutes away, but the Lord is right there with you. So keep your prayers going up and your head on a swivel. God bless.